Most bankable host Brian Aseli, tuko na wageni Simon Kinuthia, head of agribusiness at Absa Bank, and of course David Maina, who's an expert feed and fodder business development advisor pale AUI buy. Nakwambia ni kunoma, and I'm loving the conversation right now. Before the break, we were talking to Simon Kinuthia, and he was talking to us about some of the financial solutions that we could have to make sure that El Nino doesn't affect us as hard as it can, or when we have such, we call it a disaster, that we are well prepared for this. Would you care to just continue from where we stopped?
Thank you, Brian. And I have one proverb for you. Mm-hmm. A child who asks questions does not become a fool. Mm-hmm. So thank you for that question. Now, just to continue on that thought process about financing solutions, I've talked to basically that the banks are involved as part of the actors in the value chains. As ABSA, we take an active role. And I mentioned about our 4 pillars in terms of access to information is a critical one. And that's why we're on this show with David, just to provide that linkage in terms of the information that, we need to get out there. So, speak to us. We'll be able, I would like to encourage people just to talk to us about their requirements, their needs. We'll work with them. Mm-hmm. Just a couple of challenges I want to also put out is that as we look at any value chain, you've got to look at it end to end. So, for example, the emerging need is, say, for example, stocking up on fodder because there's going to be a supply chain disruption. Now, the question is that which nodes of the value chain can we work with, for example? So, obviously, the primary producer is a key one. There's also the input provider who actually does a fodder, right, business, yeah. and that person also requires to think around what are their needs, and we can work with them around that.
This is just a side note. Are more young people really interested in agribusiness?
Yes, they are. Yes, they
are. Are we coming for those loans? Are we coming for those financial solution tips?
Yes, we are. I think I'm very encouraged because youth bring in a fresh ideas, right? And what I've noticed, especially when it comes to agri-tech, that is a place that youth is really participating. Remember, agribusiness is not only about primary agriculture, but it's actually about the whole value chain approach. So I just wanted to mention one last thing about the approach. I think we need to work with the various actors, including the processors, including the aggregators, to see how can we collaborate together with financiers to solve this emerging challenge. And as banks and as ABSA, we are part of that equation, and we will put in our piece in terms of making sure we enable agribusinesses.
Yeah. I love that, it's good to see a bank like ABSA being proactive about it and meeting everyone who is in this value chain at their point of need before, things hit the fan. So it's good to know that the future is looking bright for young people in agribusiness and everyone in agribusiness as well. Hopefully we can mitigate the effects of this El Nino well, and, farmers don't need to suffer for it. But are there policy changes, David, that could be made so that in the next 10, 15, 20, 30 years, something like this is happening again, we're much better placed to handle it?
Yeah, but I need to report you guys, Mariam and Brian. Your listeners must know that I requested for my throwback. I said, Amka kumekucha, kamata jembe na panga.
That is a throwback.
And I was told that throwback here is throwback, not extreme throwback.
Yeah.
So I'm here saying sawa tu. But let me go back to the topic. That was really a farming song, but perhaps it happens many years ago. So I think I have reported now, so I go back.
Okay.
Yeah, the issue here is that we are so happy to be walking around with the bank, the insurance, the guys who are private sector, so that begin to bring new thinking on a crisis, on disasters, because we have been thinking about relief many times, which is okay. Yeah. It gives a bit of relief for sure. But then we have to begin to think about business solutions. And therefore, coming here with the bank is a big statement, and I hope that we can be able to continue on this way so that we bring the business-powered action into the fodder discourse, into the fodder arena. Where the fodder discussions are done, can we see what kind of business solutions you're going to have? Now, one of the policy issues, and one which thing that I think member states should actually adopt, and I hope that soon we can have these decisions made where they're supposed to be made, is to begin to do a feed balance sheet for every country. You know what a balance sheet means? That we see how much do we actually need per year, and how much do we actually have or generate in a year. Therefore, what's the difference? This is what is giving us an output of 60% deficit. I mean, we can say it's a bad place to be, but it's a great thing that we have it in the first place. We didn't have the statistics before. So if every country shows such a number, then we begin to know where we are. 2 is actually making it so well primed, so well profiled as an important discourse that you can have it every year.
Yeah.
Like an annual fodder stock taking for every country. That we have a period, maybe towards the last 4 or 5 months of the year, where every country is showcasing this is where we are, so that we have a basis for checking ourselves on are we vulnerable or are we getting more sustainable as far as this for the feed and fodder issues are concerned.
Yeah.
That way, we are online to meet our nutrition targets, because right now, only 4 countries in all member states of AU are on track to meet their targets for nutrition. So finally, and I think I'm saying finally for the finally, is that we also need to think about it from a financing point of view.
Yeah.
ABSA is here today. They are using the money from their clients to be able to lend, and they are making an appeal. They are making a call that everybody who needs to buy fodder now, the farmers, the cooperative, the county, fill your stores now, and you have no cash flow, come to ABSA, come to the bank near you or the bank where you have found and buy a lot of fodder, stock it, because the sun will not be shining in the next few weeks. But then, how about the government? What can it do? You know, a few years ago when I used to work for the Youth Fund, the bank put money in, the government put money in banks.
Yes.
And they said, you bank so-and-so, we are putting money for you at 1% or 2%. You lend at 8%, make your money, but lend at half the rate that is conventional for CBK.
Yeah.
Why? Because I want to give a subsidized loan so that more people can borrow and be able to pay back. This is actually where the bank should come in and begin to put money in banks so that they can lend preferably to people who are farming, and that way they don't feel the pain of a conventional loan. That's how we begin to show that we're actually serious about solving our disasters.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for creating time to just be here and talk to us. For the young people out there, najua mmekuwa mkisikiza, and we have solutions for all this. So make sure that you get to continue tuning in. Next hour, we're going to be playing for some cash, so you better stand by for that. It's just about to get funky. So if you're here, still stay with us. Good morning.
Thank you so much, Simon. Thank you so much, David, for an amazing morning. We're getting into the next hour now. A chance to win some money, as Brian said.
This is the Nation FM News Update with Brian Mushiri.